My name is Jeff Morgan. I am here at the Collin County Courthouse, and this is one of the places that we have been at, and we've been inside different courtrooms. We've witnessed a lot of corruption. Every so often we don't see it happening, but Tariq Farouk is here, and he's from Pakistan. You've got a story to tell us, don't you?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
I'll let you go ahead.
So my name is Tariq Farouk, and my life has pretty much been destroyed for the last 3.5 years as I've been coming here regularly to the Collin County Courthouse, specifically the 468 District Court, Collin County, Judge Lindsey Wynne. My special needs child with mental health issues that I was taking care of before and after separation has been taken away from me unjustly. No attention has been paid by Judge Lindsey Wynne, to any evidence. She's been biased, prejudiced against me throughout right from the get-go. Her standard modus operandi from me and from others that I've talked to is she picks a side right from the get-go, and then she blindly rules against you, regardless of what the law states, regardless of what the evidence is in the case, and so on and so forth.
You know, that's interesting that you say that. I've only been in Judge Lindsey Wynne's court once, and I was there with about 7 other people and also 2 media people as well, and she seemed to act pretty good in that case. People told me it was because she knew she was being watched. Is that your experience that you've seen with Judge Lindsey Wynne?
Yeah, I would state that. In my case, she's yelled at me, screamed at me. She's talked to me in a very demeaning, rude tone multiple times. And you know, quite frankly, the remedy, perhaps part of that is because of the extremely high prohibitive cost of appeals. It starts out of about $550 per hour. So if you don't have that kind of money, and if you don't have that kind of knowledge, you know, you don't have any remedy, essentially.
And Tariq, you're a professional, aren't you? Don't you? Tell us a little about what you do right now.
So I'm an IT guy by profession. I've authored and co-authored multiple books.
Okay.
I'm a well-respected figure in my field.
Okay.
My criminal history is a blank slate.
Okay.
My academic history for my special needs son is perfect, 100 over 100.
This makes you a perfect target for these courts.
Unfortunately, you know, I'm smiling, but inside me is a lot of pain.
Absolutely.
A lot of hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. My special needs child is hurting right now.
Yeah.
My academic history, like I said, is perfect, 100 over 100. My medical history with my son is 100 over 100. He's almost 14. He wears diapers. I change his diapers. Before the separation, I was the stay-at-home dad, and I was I was the primary caregiver of my child. Okay. Of course, all of that and a whole bunch of other evidence was just simply not considered by Judge Wynne. And if somebody were to state on a piece of paper, on a piece of legal paper, that Judge Wynne simply ignored the evidence, that would be a massive falsehood, because she was doing it deliberately. She was doing it deliberately. She knew exactly what she was doing. She deliberately, with intent, suppressed my evidence. And I asked the local, state, and federal authorities to investigate that kind of behavior, and to essentially give justice to me, my family, and other families that have been affected by her court.
Right, and I've heard, it's the time that I was in here was for another dad, but I've also heard that she's been equally as bad when she chooses a side against a mom. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard, and that's when I've talked to other parents, is what I've heard. So essentially, if I had to summarize her behavior in court with me specifically, it's essentially nothing short of corruption. It's essentially corruption. Biased, prejudiced, systemic abuse of discretion. And so it's highly unfortunate. I mean, I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. I grew up in Airwolf, Knight Rider, and MacGyver, and I saw David Hasselhoff and Jan Michael Vincent, you know, being these crime fighters, you know, giving up millions of dollars so they could be on the weaker side. they could be on the just side. You know, all that perception has been shattered essentially once I've gone through these Texas family courts. I mean, it's absolutely nothing short of horrible.
Right, and you know, so many people have talked about receiving justice in these courts. I would call them courts of injustice. I've called them courts of iniquity. This whole courthouse here is a den of iniquity in which lots of really bad things take place. And I'm not saying in every single instance, but enough so that I personally do not trust the court system, the judicial system, and I am not alone. At the beginning, you think maybe you are alone, but as you start to talk with more people, you find out this is very widespread. We have a problem in Texas. It is our judicial injustice system, and in particular, it's the family court injustice system. Is that what your feeling is?
Absolutely, and I've experienced it. Unfortunately, I've experienced it firsthand. I bore the full brunt of it. Okay. For 33 months, we had 50-50 custody. Mm-hmm. The prior judge who ruled, Judge Hockett, she ruled that my son has a very strong bond and affiliation with me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so she ruled that the child not be away from me at most for a few days, essentially like 3 or 4 days per week. Mm-hmm. And during those 33 months, approximately 33 months, there was nothing in my case that would have prompted Judge Lindsey Wynne to deliver such a harsh sentence against me and my special needs child.
Yeah.
What her actions actually translate and equate to simply is child abuse. She's forcing a special needs child with mental health issues to live with a parent who has been charged by CPS with medical neglect. Okay. With a parent that he has no affinity with. That a parent that he has vehemently, violently, forcefully refused to go at almost every single transaction, and I have presented videos in her, which she absolutely tried her bestest. Judge Wynne tried her bestest to suppress those videos. She even said that I cannot describe what's happening in those videos. She said, no, I cannot describe what's happening in those videos. I wonder what law allows her to not even describe what's happening in those videos, you know, and so on and so forth. So this child has been classified by his school as imminent physical harm to other kids in multiple known incidents while he was in the care of the mother. And despite all of that stuff, okay, despite all of the glaring evidence, she simply said, okay, mother gets exclusive educational decision making, exclusive medical decision making, and the mother, unfortunately, has used those exclusive to deny psychological care to my child. So after all some of these incidents happened, the school recommended that the child see a psychologist for his mental health issues. She used her exclusive decision-making power to deny much needed psychological care. You know, we live in an age where mental health is all the focus.
Right.
But all of this, of course, does not, you know, matter to Judge Wynne, unfortunately.
Right. And you mentioned a couple of words in particular, child abuse. And it's, you know, she might say, well, I'm just a judge. But she very well is the facilitator, the enabler, and maybe even the actual perpetrator of child abuse, especially to a special needs child. I've had an uncle who had special needs, Down syndrome. I've known people with severe special needs. My own stepson has special needs. And the thing is that as men, we are wired to protect our children, and we are wired to protect those who are being abused. And yet somehow in these courts, judges are allowed to abuse our kids, our grandkids, those with special needs. And the moment we would act to protect our kids, all of a sudden, now you're the problem, not this corrupt judge, Lindsey Wynne, who we need somebody to run against, who's making these rulings. Is that the way that you see it?
That would be a very accurate characterization of the problem. And a lot of it has to do, Jeff, with money.
Right.
Money is the driving factor for attorneys because the more they elongate the conflict, the more they elongate the conflict, the more money they make. Attorneys are not interested in any kind of resolution and conflict.
Right.
So, in my opinion, and an opinion of hundreds of thousands of Texans in this state, please, to the legislators, please pass the parental equality bill by default. That would cut these cases by the thousands. That would eliminate conflict. Of course, a very few people, the attorneys and the judges, would stop making money, but it would be good for the people, it would be good for the kids, it would be good for the families, and obviously it would be good for my family as well.
Right, and you make a very good point here, because the research has shown from the people that I've talked with, and these are very highly skilled professionals in their area, that in the case of a situation, first off, the intact family is better. It's the best environment in almost every instance for children to be reared. But in absence of that, the equal shared parenting, 50-50 shared parenting, does the best to minimize the trauma to the child. And also, it accepts the principle of equality. Right now, the judges have discretion to rule in somebody's favor with no reason whatsoever, just so that what you said, somebody can keep fighting and fighting and fighting and generate money for the system. In fact, I was in a courtroom one time when the judge went back in chambers and he was yelling to an attorney or something like that. If she's willing to keep fighting, it's more money for the industry.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the hard, cold truth, you know. And absolutely, I agree with you 100% on what you said. And unfortunately, for the people, this equates into tyranny and oppression.
Absolutely, it does.
Okay, it equates into injustice, mass level of injustice.
Right.
And it equates to destroying the basic building block of society, which is the family, which is the nuclear family.
Absolutely.
Okay, it has, as we know, scientifically proven that there is a widespread, rampant fatherlessness crisis all over this country.
Right.
Politicians have to wake up and smell the coffee on this extremely important issue.
Yeah. I think it also, part of the problem as well, I think at times, perhaps, is that, politicians don't know the issues well, but then they have their lobbyists, and their lobbyists inform them. I heard one politician say, I get my information from Twitter. Well, if you're a politician, if you're voting on this issue, you need to be talking about something more than Twitter, and you need to be talking about something more than these people like Steve and Amy Bresnan and the Texas Anti-Family Lawless Foundation that claims to be experts, and they are advocates for the divorce industry and for their attorneys. And it always strikes me as odd that here is a judge who knows nothing about your child except maybe reading some paper, often has never met your child. You've been with your child for years and years and years. You were there for the conception. You were there for the birth, perhaps, for the upbringing of the child, the rearing of the child, educational, medical issues. And somehow this foreign judge, who is a stranger, knows better than you what is the best interest of your child, which they don't even know what that is. But that's the part that always strikes me, is why do we let this happen? Parental rights are some of the most fundamental rights that we have. And this is even by Supreme Court decision, but we know that by nature. You have strangers telling you how to rear your kids or when you can see them. This is the height of tyranny and injustice, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. What I want to say is that if we are to improve society, if we are to improve the current system as it is, the state of affairs of the current family law courts here in Texas.
Right. Anti-family law courts. Anti-family lawless courts.
Yeah.
Courts of injustice.
These courts are all about money. Mm-hmm. They're all about corruption.
Right.
It has absolutely nothing to do with the best interest of the child or the best interest of the mom or the dad or the family. This is all about money.
Right.
And everybody knows it. And unfortunately, what's happening is the system is causing generational destruction of our kids.
Absolutely.
If the system would theoretically be fixed today, it would take at least 2 generations to take effect.
Right.
Politicians have to look at the scientific facts, the scientific studies being done, talk to real parents, and fix this sooner rather than later.
Right. My understanding is you're not the only one in your family that has been impacted by this. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my sister, she works as a part-time substitute teacher for the local ISD.
Okay.
She went through 11 pregnancies in 13 years.
Wow.
6 miscarriages and 5 kids.
Wow.
She's never smoked, never drank, never did any drugs or anything like that. Okay, she's a conservative person, and she doesn't even have a parking ticket per se. Okay, and despite all that, she's been kept away from her 5 kids for more than 4 years.
In Texas,
right here in Collin County. About approximately 20 months opposing counsel, because the dad has a lot of money to spend on these attorneys. She wasted that almost 18 months in transferring the case from Dallas County to Collin County. During that time frame, my sister had no access to the kids whatsoever. Kids that came from her womb. Okay. Now I'm going to take a little bit of tangent. Regardless of anything and everything, all the abuse the mental torture that I've gone through because of opposing counsel in my case, I still respect my wife, my ex-wife.
Right.
Because she is the mother of my children.
She's the mother of the children.
And
absolutely.
I will never do anything to sever the ties of the womb, to sever the ties of the kinship, as is commanded to me in the Holy Scripture.
Right.
Okay. So these are my religious civic responsibilities.
Right.
Now, going back to my sister's case. Okay. How is a mother who the local ISD and hundreds of parents are entrusting their minor children with being kept away from her own children?
Right. Right. And you've seen, the point is very well taken, because you've seen people that have been full access to their stepchildren and no access to their own children by the indiscriminate ruling of an anti-family court judge who may have been supported by the attorneys that appeared in her court on behalf of the other person.
Absolutely. I mean, if I had to summarize my experience, I would describe this justice as a service, just like you have in IT, cloud computing as a service, database as a service, and so on. This is justice as a service.
Injustice as a service.
Right. In other words, the way I've experienced it firsthand, my sister's experience, if you don't have the money or the connections, there's no recourse for you. There's no remedy for you. Your life will experience personal, financial, emotional, mental ruin. And there is no recourse.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what a story that you're having to tell us. And the thing is, your story is not the only story. There are hundreds and literally thousands of these stories throughout the state of Texas. And in this courthouse right here, Collin County Courthouse, I've witnessed a number of them myself. So anything else you'd like to add here?
I request the people, the politicians in Austin, to pass the equality,
the 50-50 shared
50-50 shared parenting equality bill. It's my understanding that 13 states in this country have already passed the bill.
I don't think it's that many, but I think it's more like 4 or 5, but I'm not positive. You may be right, I don't know.
Yeah. So what I was reading was that once the bill was passed, the caseload dropped dramatically.
Right.
The conflict, you are taking the conflict out of the equation.
Yeah.
You're returning all the money, and on average it's about 40 to 50,000, and it can go up into the multi-6 figures.
Yeah.
That's very common.
I've heard of a few in the 7 figures.
Right. So essentially, give us back our unalienable parental rights that are given to us by God.
Yeah.
Okay. Please take to the politicians of Texas. We're asking you as parents for what is given to us by God. This is a conservative state.
It's supposed to be.
So that's all I got to say, man.
Yeah, I got you 100%. Tariq, it was so good to talk with you. I'm sorry about your story, but we still want to get this out, because we know even this story right here, every time we go and talk to another place, there are even stories that are worse than yours. So as unjust as it is for you, we know that throughout the state there are multiple levels of injustice that go way beyond even what you're experiencing. But we will be standing for you. If you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, you need to know that these family courts out here are destroying your children, your grandchildren. There have been many grandparents that cannot even see their grandchildren because of what a judge does in these courtrooms. Completely unjust. And Tariq, we stand with you. We stand with your sister. We want justice. And as you mentioned, why is a judge, many times a secular judge, sometimes a godless judge, telling you as a person of faith how you should rear your children. That is another injustice itself. I'm planning to speak with somebody about that in a couple of weeks at a national level, but you've made very excellent points. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff.
All the best for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Take care now.
Thank you.